I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 284 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we're talking about changing the way you talk to yourself. So the first thing we need to talk about today is that I sound a little stuffy because probably like most of you, I think we are facing early allergy season here where I live in Cincinnati. And that's so weird to me because typically my allergies do not kick in at all until April. Like I would say toward the end of April. I'm usually totally done by like Mother's Day, but April's usually rough. And this is mid-March, but we had some warm weather. I think a lot of things popped and I am like still fighting the effects of allergies in my eyes, which are usually my number one symptom, like making me crazy, right? I want to take my eyes out of my head. And then also a little bit of this congestion. So if I sound a little stuffy today, that is why. We're going to barrel through here though, because the topic for today is one that I'm really excited about this topic, and it is changing the way that we talk to ourselves. I think in the work that I do as a coach and an advisor to really high achieving women, man, are we mean to ourselves, right? There's this voice in our head that has enormous impact. And it is so disempowering. And I think there are a couple of different styles, maybe, of the way that this voice speaks to us. Like, first of all, there are the I ams, the labels that we place on ourselves. And so I just want you to think about this maybe today as you go through your day, paying attention to where do you hear yourself in this silent, right? This is a silent inner dialogue where you are labeling yourself, right? God, I'm so fat. I'm so out of shape, right? Or I'm such a loser. I'm so behind. Maybe you're trying to do something that you don't do often and thinking just, I suck at this, or I'm so dumb. Why can't I figure this out? I think there's a lot of this narrative that shows up in parenting, right? I'm such a terrible mother. I'm so mean. I'm so whatever. The labels that we find usually attack sort of our own Achilles heel. The thing that we are the most self-conscious about probably is the dominant one. So if you are someone who has body image challenges, if that's the thing, then you're going to have a lot of narrative about what you look like. If you're someone who doesn't feel like you're particularly bright or sharp or smart, then your language in your head probably reflects that. If you feel like you're struggling in your relationships, then your inner dialogue where you're negative may affect your roles in various relationships. Okay. So the I am statements, I'ms, right, show up a lot. The second kinds are the shoulds, have tos, and need tos. So I was monitoring my own inner dialogue when I was getting ready for this episode over the last few days. And the number of times that I am, again, silently, this is happening in my head, saying to myself, I need to fill in the blank, right? I might walk down the stairs and think, I need to get that laundry as I'm going to make a cup of coffee, right? Not going to deal with laundry. I might be saying, I really need to get that laundry switched, or I need to change the sheets. I need to make that appointment for the dress alteration, right? For my daughter. I need to call the orthodontist. I need a lot of I need tos, I have tos. Kind of that running to-do list can be a big part of our dialogue. Or I shoulds, right? You're about to sit down. First Ted Lasso episode dropped this week. You're about to sit down to watch it and you're saying, I really should get to bed. I really should be reading instead of this. I really should go check in with my son. Right? So I should, I have to, I need to. I think there's a lot of that dialogue. If we're not labeling ourselves negatively with I ams, we're telling ourselves what we should do. And those are just a few of the gems that we throw at ourselves on the regular. There are some tapes that we just run in the background that truly incapacitate us or keep us stuck, right? I think there are things that are more throwaway comments that maybe we've learned to deal with a little bit, but then there's some that are just such a consistent part of our inner dialogue. They become identity issues, and they really can keep us stuck in patterns for far longer than we need to be there. And the challenge with those messages is the voice that they come from. It's this hypercritical, mean-spirited, unrelenting voice, often cruel voice that knows just how to push our buttons. And if you have some part of yourself, some aspect of your personality, some aspect of your character, of your appearance that you really almost obsess about, right? One that is elevated to a level where you're like, man, I rarely think about anything else. This runs through my head all day, every day. That is the voice that I am most interested in getting some maneuverability around. So it's important first that we sort of tune in to what is the voice, what's the sort of character of the voice, and what's its content, if we want to find a way to get some maneuverability. And what I'm going to suggest today is that we learn to play with finding a few new voices with which we could talk to ourselves. Okay. Identities, if you will, like characters of the voice. And I think it's, again, first important to know, how does your voice talk to you? Is it authoritative? What is it? Kind of like if you were to personify that voice, maybe, what would it look like? What might its job be? Right? So that we really understand the character of the voice. And I'm drawing a line here because, and I've said this in earlier episodes, that voice in your head is not you. That's not your truest, wisest, most fully embodied self, right? It's like a fractured version that has sort of become a misguided motivator, right? We're trying to use it to pull ourselves in a direction that we want to go, but the tone that it has adopted is not particularly affected. Okay. Hi, it's Cheryl Ann. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. So, 3 voices that I think would be intriguing for us to try on for size. The first one, you're going to love this one, I'm calling your dog lover voice. So if you have a dog, you know exactly what I mean. For years and years, I would not have said that I loved dogs. In fact, I was kind of afraid of them for a lot of my life. And we have a dog now, and I love Sky. She is my girl. So the dog lover voice would be the voice with which you speak to your pet. Right. And if you think about the way we as pet parents speak to our pets, there is this deeply warm, loving, compassionate relationship that we have with our pets, right? We talk to them in almost like a sing-song baby voice, and we snuggle them, right? It's, you're such a good girl. Do you need a hug? Do you want to go outside? Like, we have this very parental, but the warmest version of ourselves as a parent voice that we use when we are speaking to the pets who we love, right? And I wonder what would happen if we spoke to ourselves with that voice, right? If we were sort of telling ourselves, hey, come sit with me and snuggle in, right? Where everything we did was sort of endearing and adorable. Does that put us into a supportive, nurturing, playful frame? And how would that change the way that we were walking around feeling, right? I will tell you, that dog lover voice, that pet parent, is surely not talking about needing to do the laundry and the taxes and, call the alterations department. There is a sense of being in the present moment that is so clear when we are interacting with our pets. And this is the voice that really delivers compassion, This is the voice that allows us to meet ourselves exactly where we are, to celebrate kind of the best in us, to just have unconditional acceptance. And that's a voice that I bet we need a lot more of in our own lives, right? If my inner voice was speaking to me the way I speak to our dog, I would be walking around with a big smile on my face for most of the day. So I want you to really think about that one. What does it look like to be in your dog lover or pet parent voice with yourself? Second voice that you might want to try on for size, I'm calling your scientist voice. Okay. This is the one that is exploratory, curious, inquisitive. This is the voice or the character or the frame that sort of is interested in breaking things down, right? To get to a better outcome, to figure out why is this happening and what could we do differently? It asks questions. A scientist asks great questions, right? That's what a hypothesis is. They come up with a question and then they seek to prove or disprove that hypothesis using data, right? Using a process. And sometimes I think we are lamenting condition that we've been in for a long time, but we're sort of trying to beat it out of ourselves, right? We're just acting like if we're mean enough, if we're cruel enough, that we will eventually change. And of course, that's not true, right? That's not the motivation that gets us to change most of the time. So the scientist frame or that voice is the one that helps us pause and really investigate what is going on here, right? Why am I constantly telling myself that I am so stupid? Why am I telling myself that I am so out of shape? I'm such a loser, right? What is underneath that? Is it true, right? Is it objectively true? Is there evidence to support it? Is there evidence to disprove it? What would have to be true to get a different outcome? That the scientific voice can ask better questions. And what this does is delivers insight. And that insight can lead us to action. Okay. So different than the pet parent, dog lover voice, which is really just all about compassion and you are good just the way you are. And we love you so much. This voice is going to sort of a little bit more dispassionately or objectively create inquiry so that we can get insight. And I think there's a time in all of our lives where this is the most appropriate voice. We have to sort of double click and figure out what is going on here. We got to run some experiments to see if we can get a better outcome. And the scientist voice or frame where you sort of picture, I can picture it in the white coat and the pocket protector sort of coming in to say, like, what is going on here? How did we get here? What could we do differently? Right? That is a very powerful frame that is probably the one we overlook the most. Okay, third is finding your coaching voice. So when I think about this, I think about a Peloton instructor, encouraging, motivating, that yes, you can energy, you've got this, right? It's the voice that reminds us to honor our progress and sort of throws around a little confetti while we're doing it. So you can go back and think about in your own life, where were some of your best coaches, maybe on sports teams? And you can go back as far as like preschool soccer. Some of the coaches who are encouraging those little teeny people, whether they were us or whether we watch it happen with our children, to just get out there and do the thing, right? You've got this. You're running the wrong direction. It's all good. Turn around and run the other way. I was thinking about my son who played Little League for 1 year and his Little League coaches and just how patient they were with the mayhem and chaos that was ensuing on that field with very young children trying to figure out the complexities of the game, right? And then I think about my field hockey coach in high school and the things that she did to make running all of those miles, before and after get so fun. The little competitions, the belief that she had that we could, in fact, do this, that we could train together, that we could learn together, that we could win together. And then I do think about a great spinning instructor, some that I've had at local studios and then also within the Peloton app, that notion of just unbridled enthusiasm and encouragement. And that voice telling us, yes, you can. You've got this. It delivers encouragement. Often when we don't think we can, and we don't think we have this. So that third voice can deliver encouragement if what we need is a little motivation, a little more belief. And so what's the trick? The trick is to catch ourselves when we're using that mean girl voice first. We have to notice, we have to be aware that, here comes the voice with a lot of I ams and a lot of I shoulds and I have tos and a lot of cruelty. And we have to choose with intention what we really need. Do we need compassion? That's where we want to pull out our pet parent voice. Do we need insight so we can get a different outcome? That's where we want to lean into our scientist voice. Or do we need encouragement? And that's where we want to lean into the coaching voice. And we can choose the voice that knows how to deliver what we need most. So shifting the way that we talk to ourselves isn't easy or obvious because a lot of this is happening on autopilot, right? It's happening in the background. It's happening with no thought. Sometimes we're not even aware that we're listening to our inner voice because it's so omnipresent, right? I can have a voice narrating in my head how this episode is going while I'm recording it. That voice never stops talking. So our ability to choose the voice and sort of change the channel on who's delivering the message will change the character of that message. And that can really open up space for us to lift some of those negative emotions and get some breathing room where we can go out and do the things that we're really meant to do, right? And feel the way that we deserve to feel. So if this is a challenge for you, I want you to try first to tune in to what is the character of your current inner voice. How does that voice show up? And then I want you to play with one of these three that I've given you or your own that you come up with that could just change the character of how you talk to yourself. All right, come share that with me. Hit me up on Instagram if you had a good experience with this. I'm at C.Skolnicki on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And that is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.